Welcome to Nourishing Conversations. We're talking tonight about Whole30 tips and how to survive. Nourishing Conversations, it's just conversations with real people about real food, health and movement. You know, when you meet someone and you start talking to them about something you're passionate about and you really get each other and the conversation is healthy and positive. I found heaps of times I was always having these great conversations with people about health, and that's what Nourishing Conversations really means to me. And with a lot of our events in Brisbane Paleo, we found that people really wanted to have question and answer time with guest speakers. So to facilitate this, we thought about doing some online webinars where you can just log on from home and listen to your favourite speakers in the real food world and have the ability to interact with them live via the chat functionality. So that's what Nourishing Conversations are. We've just got lots of people coming into the chat room at the moment. Hi Karen Ann, and hi Natalie. So great, people can hear us, so that's always a good sign. We'll get started in a minute. We'll just go through some tips when you're on the call. There will be a little bit of a delay. There's nothing we can do about the delay. Some people can have real-time access. Some people have a delay up to 5 minutes. It's just the nature of the webinar. It could be your connection. It could be my connection. You know, there's just so many IT factors there. If you happen to get disconnected from the call or the call just lags so long you need to jump out and jump back in again, then just use the same link that you used to come in. You will miss a section of it, but you can always go back and listen to that on the replay. And just always brings you into the chat room at the current point that's happening in the room. Also, if I happen to get disconnected from the call, which can sometimes happen because my internet connection here is just so temperamental, I will get disconnected. You guys will all stay in the Google Hangout, but when I log back in, for some reason it creates another Hangout, so then you'll be all directed to the new Hangout. So just stay on and just wait for the prompts. And if for some chance there's no communications getting through, then just check or post in the actual event that you've accepted to come here tonight in Facebook. That'll be our one place of communication in that actual event. So tonight we're just going to introduce ourselves, talk about how many times we might have done the Whole30 and what benefits we've got out of that. And then Emmely Rackemann from Emmely Rackemann Health Coaching is going to talk about the mind-body connection of Whole30. Then I'm going to talk about meal planning and preparation. And I think I forgot to introduce myself at the start, but I'm Leah Williamson. Most people probably already know that anyway. I am the founder of Brisbane Paleo and Nourishing Conversations. And Keast is then going to talk about surviving the Whole30 and her tips for surviving it. And then we're going to have the Q&A. So while we're speaking, you can ask questions. I can go back to them, but it is probably better to just wait for the question and answer section, and then we'll go from there. So, all right. So we'll just get started. It's great that everybody's logged in and said they can hear. So, yep, my name is Leah Williamson. I'm from Brisbane Paleo Nourishing Conversations, as I just said. I have done the Whole30 probably too many times to say. I did it first quite a while ago after attending a Whole9 seminar, and that was absolutely fantastic, and that really gets you motivated. And I also read It Starts With Food, and the first time round I had been eating paleo for a while, but I was just not ready for the shock that I had, the headaches. I had a headache, I think, for about 3 days, just feeling really tired. But then after that, feeling fantastic. And some of the things I learned from that was I really just cannot eat dairy, unfortunately. As much as I love dairy, dairy is a big problem for me. So I've also got Emmely on the line, Emmely from Emmely Rackemann Health Coaching. How many times have you done the whole 30?
I have actually only done it probably about 1.5 times. So obviously you can tell from the half that I was still just learning, finding my feet. But for me, it was just such a great experience to actually find out about what my relationship was with the food. It's something that I just didn't realize, like how many times you just end up mindlessly snacking throughout the day, and how many paleo treats I used to go to. And so sticking to the whole 30 just really helped with that. So that was a really good experience for me.
Great.
Where I was at my journey. So
awesome. And I've also got Catherine Keast on the line. How many times have you done whole 30?
So I've done one, Leah, but I loved it so much that I went for 100 days straight.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and I don't even know why I really came off it in the end, because since then I've probably missed it and craved it, which is why I've started the one for this January and encouraged as many people as I can to actually get on board and join us so they can also feel as good.
That's fantastic. So I'm going to just run a little poll and just say, it's just going to say how many times have you done whole 30? Is this your first time? Have you done it one time? Have you done it numerous times? So I'm just going to start the poll now. And then everyone can vote, and then probably in about, I might do it after Em finishes speaking, and then before I start speaking, I might run the poll then and see how many people we've got online, first timers or one time, or like me, numerous times. So Emmely, I'll hand over to you for your topic, mind-body connection.
No worries, thank you, Leah. All right, guys. So I'm just going to come up with. Actually, I've encountered my handful of tips that like things that I really got out of the whole food experience when I did it. And I guess the first one I want to start with is ask yourself, like what's the goal that you're trying to achieve with doing this? And a lot of people sort of say, okay, well my goal is to get healthy or to stop eating junk food. And I'm going to ask you. I want you to dig a little bit deeper. So ask yourself, okay, why is that important to you? So you go, okay, I want to get healthier. Okay, I want to lose some weight. And you go, okay, why do you want to do that? And can you sort of see, you keep sort of digging through down to the levels. So you get to answers like, oh, okay, I want to be able to run around with my kids. I want to be around for my kids. And you're getting to these really sort of deep and meaningful reasons that usually I know that I've gotten to the right level when I start crying at my actual underlying goal. And can you see that having a goal like this is going to be a lot more motivating for you to sort of stick through this challenge that you're sort of doing? So anytime that you sort of find yourself having impure thoughts, so to speak, and veering off the path, you can say, okay, just go back and recenter and go, why am I doing this? And hopefully that's going to help you sort of stick back to it. So that's my first one. No, it's one that's a really deep and meaningful one. The other tip that I want to talk about is communicate it with your family and friends. Some of our family and friends, have never heard of paleo, let alone a whole 30. So just start talking to them about it. So then if you do have, up and coming family events, because, as you know, life happens, if it's not Christmas, it's a birthday, or just, it's a weekday, or it's a Friday night, and just communicate with them and sort of share with them, maybe some of your goals of why you're doing this. And, I'm sure they're going to hopefully be on board with that a lot more and sort of help you out. And that's, it leads into another tip, which is about trying to surround yourself with like-minded people and supportive people. So when you're going through this, you've got a really positive environment and you're going to get the best out of this. The other thing I want to talk about was really notice the relationship that you have with food. As I sort of mentioned in my intro, when I did the whole 30, I've been eating paleo primal for about 4 years now, and so when I did the whole 30 only just a few months ago, it wasn't big changes, but what I really noticed was that I still had a really big issue with my relationship with the food, and that I would go to food when I was bored or feeling upset, or like something happened during the day, or I was tired. And sure, I'm not going for that junk food like Macca's or something, but I'm still going to making up some nut and date balls, these paleo treat kinds of things. And at the end of it, like they're still a treat, and you do just mindlessly indulge. So that was one of the things I really found with my relationship, was it was because of emotional stuff that was going on, and then to top it off, I would just eat mindlessly. So when you're going through the Whole30, I'd also recommend to really think about your food that you're eating, being thankful for the food, being in tune with how you're feeling after the food and what you're noticing. And I mean, what you could do through this as well is just keep a food and lifestyle diary and start writing down all the food that you're having, and also how you're feeling. So then you've actually you can look back over the last few days and see if you can identify any patterns between those things and go, oh, okay, actually, I notice that when I eat this, that I feel this. Or when I'm feeling this emotion, I end up craving these sorts of things. So I find that's a really useful tool. And that's usually the first thing that I get clients to do that I'm working with, because you can learn so much. And I've done it heaps of times. When I suddenly find that I'm sort of going off the rails a bit, just feeling uneasy, I just get back to that food and lifestyle diary, and you figure out pretty quickly, what these patterns are, and then you can sort of adjust your yourself that way. The other thing, another tip is don't judge yourself too harshly. Don't be so hard on yourself if you do end up falling off the wagon, or even sort of craving something that's sort of Whole30 compliant. It's we're all at different parts of our journey, and you've taken that first step and committed to doing it. Just take it one meal at a time. And as you know, the Whole30 is all about meal 1, meal 2, meal 3. So just take it one meal at a time, and that's what it's about. It's these small steps, and once you sort of take them every day persistently, you end up building these new, easy and effortless habits. And that's what it's about, that you get so used to doing something that it just becomes part of your routine, and that's the new normal for you. And that's what's so good about the Whole30, is because it does give you, those 4 weeks to really cement those new habits and figure out, you sort of will figure out how to plan your meals and work around your family. And Leah's going to have some great tips for you that in a second. And so it can get a bit overwhelming when you sort of start, but just hang in there and know that it's just like any new skill, and it just takes time and practice. Okay. So the other thing that I wanted to touch on about the mind-body connection is when you're doing this Whole30, don't go too crazy with exercise. I mean, it's going to depend on what your lifestyle was before this. So if you're making a change from sort of eating the normal, like the standard American diet, standard Australian diet, and then you're suddenly delving into this Whole30, you might have that sort of low carb flu that Leah was talking about and get the headaches and stuff. So just give yourself a break and give your body a chance to sort of settle into it and get used to this new pattern, because it's going to be a bit of a shock to your body. So, and exercising is actually stress on your body. So I'd probably suggest, just use this 30 days to, experiment with some lighter forms of exercise. So, walking is so underrated, especially in the morning. If you're looking at, releasing weight, the best thing you can do is, when you wake up in the morning, you're actually in a fasted state, in a fat burning state already. So you wake up, have your, lemon water, and then go for a half-hour walk. Or if you're going to do 15 minutes, go for a 15-minute walk, and then come back and then have breakfast. Play around with yoga, or just gentle movements, incorporate that. And the big one that always gets overlooked as well, and I probably should have said first, is sleep. Sleep allows your body to heal and repair itself. And while you're sort of going through Whole30 and your body's adjusting, so for many of us, it's going to be adjusting from getting used to burning sugar as a fuel source to switching to using fat as a fuel source. So just to give your body the best ability to sort of adapt and repair as much as it can, just make sure that you're trying to get lots of sleep. And the one tip that really helped me with my sleep is just trying to get a nice wind down routine every night. So say half hour, even just half hour before you go to bed, just switch off all the electrical devices and really limit that artificial light, and just have a shower and just read a book, or just really dim the lights and get settled in, so then you can have a better quality sleep. And my last tip is enjoy it. Enjoy the challenge. I think it's really exciting to do something like this, and you learn so much about your body, and you're probably going to be exploring new foods and new recipes and new ways to prepare things and new routines to implement to the kitchen, and you're going to really get your knife cutting skills, and you might end up getting a callus on your index finger from chopping so much food. And so just really enjoy it, embrace it, and you're going to get a fantastic outcome. So yeah, that are my tips. So yeah, good luck everyone. Hope you have a fantastic journey on this.
Thanks, Em. That was really interesting, and I've just got a tough question for you. So might not want to answer it, or might be uncomfortable answering it, but I'll give it a go.
Yeah.
Before, when you were talking about going easy on yourself and don't beat yourself up, do you still find, even like years into your journey, do you still beat yourself up?
Absolutely. Definitely. Like it's something that I'm still working on. Like I'm my toughest critic, and what I find myself doing a lot is, I make these recommendations to people, and you end up reflecting what the things that you actually need to implement in your own life. And this is definitely one of the big ticket items. So step one for me has just been being aware of it, and that's a big thing. So now, as I continue my journey, it's just going, okay, now I'm aware of it. Now, next time when the thought pops into my head, try not to react and sort of take it from there.
Yeah, because I can even say for myself, a couple of those numerous times I've done Whole30, I get to about, day 22 when I'm like, give me chocolate or I'm going to kill someone. And then I'm like, why did I do that for? I made it like 22 days. I only had this amount of days left. Why did I do that for? But I think, this far into the journey now, I'm kind of a bit more like, oh, well, I've just got to accept it, move on, talk to myself a bit that way, think positively about it. Like, at least I got to 22 days. So yeah, it's just, that's a tough one that I find, is the, beating yourself up, because you are your own worst critic.
Yeah. No, just like you said, just, if something happens, just own the decision, take responsibility for it, but then move on, and just go, okay, that was just one little glitch in the matrix, so to speak, and just get back on the wagon. You've got your next meal coming up, and just try and make the better choice then.
Yeah, thank you so much.
No,
so we'll get a chance in a little bit later on just to ask some questions of Emmely, but if you don't want to forget what question you want to ask Em, then feel free just to pop it up now and I'll scroll back through them. And I just finished the poll. So how many times have you done the Whole30? And I actually spelt that wrong too. I did a little typo. How have you do the Whole30? But anyway, 20% said it was their first time. 40% have done it one time, and then 40% have done it numerous times. So that's quite interesting statistics there, isn't it? So looks like everybody just about is doing multiple Whole30s, which, it's good. It's really good to get that, have that reset and focus, and just get back into it again when you've got, like Em said, some paleo treats sneaking back in there, or whatever your vice might be. So Right, now I'm going to talk a little bit about meal planning and preparation. So when Em and I do our presentations, we do a couple of different presentations. We do a Discover Paleo nights, and we do Paleo basics. And one thing I always like to cover off in our events is about meal planning and preparation. So some of you that have been to our events might have heard some of this stuff before, but I think it's always really important to get that recap and just, think about doing that, because I even find myself sometimes I'm busy, things get in the way, and I forget to meal plan. And when I forget to meal plan, that's when I forget to get things out of the freezer. And when I forget to get things out of the freezer, that's when I find myself ordering takeaway or just grabbing whatever I can find and not eating properly. And, so to always reset and refocus, and whenever I do a Whole30, I really like to be super organized. Probably a little bit too organized, my husband says, but I think it's all for a good purpose. So one thing I like to do is get a meal planner of some kind. Like, you can look online and get templates, or you can actually go to the stationery store KKK, and they've got a really great meal planner that has a big magnetic strip on the back of it, and you can stick it on the fridge. It's clear, it's really easy to fill out, like there's heaps of space on there, and I just start with whatever protein that I'm having for the day, because I find that the easiest. And I tend to do things in 2-week blocks because we get paid fortnightly, so I find that's the easiest way for me. But you just kind of find your own rhythm and do what works best for you, and it might take a couple of different goes of doing it, and then you find a way that really works for you. So on payday I tend to go to the butcher, and I buy like 2 weeks worth of meat, and then I'll freeze a lot of that meat into different portions, and then I'll just come to my meal planner, and then I'll just write down and I'll just alternate my protein. So I might steak one night, chicken the next night, some kind of pork the next night, beef the next night after that, and I just start with that. And then everything else tends to fall in. So then we go and do the fruit and veg shopping, and I'll get a whole lot of fruit and veg that's in season, and I'll go through some of my recipe books, and I'll go through some of my past recipes that I've really enjoyed and the family likes, and then I'll start putting together some veggie dishes, and then I'll talk to you a little bit later on about some of the ways I do the different meal preparation. And then I kind of put on the board snacks, and I know like snacks are kind of not really Whole30, but sometimes if you haven't eaten enough in your meal 1 or your meal 2, you might feel a bit like you need something in the afternoon. And I really think, rather than rushing out and grabbing some kind of sweet kind of treat or whatever, it's much better at that afternoon kind of slump, especially in the early first days of Whole30, to have some kind of snack prepared. So I really like guacamole with vegetable sticks. That tends to be a really great snack, or some kind of ham with some nuts and some more veggie sticks, or something like that. An egg, a boiled egg, that's always a really good kind of snack. So I kind of have some of those ready on hand just in case. And and then I kind of also, all over the meal planner, I write things like, this is Whole30, and I stick it on the fridge so I can see it. And then I also put in other things that could trigger me off Whole30 as well. So, I've got a play date coming up and we're meeting at a cafe. Then I want to make sure that, I've packed myself some healthy snacks. We've got a dinner out coming up. I want to make sure I've looked at the menu before we go out to dinner, and I write down, I look through the menu, or I ring them and I try and pick the best before we get there. And it's just all about that kind of mental preparation. Planned at the start of the week. I actually usually do my meal planning on a Friday night, so then I can hit the markets on a Saturday and a Sunday and the butcher and stuff. So, it's just about finding that right day for you. And so once I've got all the meal planning done, then I tend to go to the shops, and so local farmers markets are great. You can pick up organic fruit and veg quite, not as expensive at those places. If you're a person that can only kind of get to the supermarket, which I think is perfectly fine, and Whole9 says that as well. If you can only get to the supermarket, then do the best that you can do at the supermarket. then you might also want to look at maybe also some other options such as ordering online there's quite a few good online organic fruit and veg places now, and just kind of mentally preparing where you're going to get all your fruit and veg from, where you're going to get your meat from. I'm pretty time poor, but I still haven't worked it away, which doesn't cause me not to go to a couple of different shops on the weekend. I think that's just the way it is. And I also order all my bulk items from co-ops. So Brisbane Paleo actually has a co-op that we support called Caveman Co-op. And so I can give you the details of those later on. The pickup for that is in South Brisbane though. So it's if you can get to South Brisbane, that's great. There's also other ones all around, so we can probably list some of those even back in the Brisbane Paleo group if people want to put some of those up. And the last kind of tip I've got there is if you can't buy organic or it's not in your budget, then at least observe the 12 dirty dozen list. I always have to rely on M to tell the proper name of this one.
It's the Environmental Working Group. It has a dirty dozen list and a clean 15 that they put out every year, and it basically describes which fruit and veggies are the most heavily sprayed with pesticide, herbicides, etc. And then alternatively for the clean 15, it shows you the ones that have got the least amount of residue, pesticide residue left on them.
If you have that link easy to get to, maybe you want to pop it in the chat for everyone to have a look at.
Yeah, sure.
Thanks. So that's just a bit about shopping as well. And then so once you got all the food, then what I like to do usually on a Sunday, I'm pretty typical on the Sunday. I have the big cook up, so I like to do some slow cooking. So my favorite thing to do is just get like a big topside roast beef, throw it in the slow cooker. Don't even put any herbs or anything with it, and just leave it to cook for like 8 hours, and it'll just cook in its own juices. And then I pull that out and shred it, and then I've got shredded beef, and then I portion it off into Tupperware containers in meal-sized portions and put it in the freezer. And then during the week when I come along, I'll already have this meat cooked, and then I can just add whatever herbs at the time. So I might add some oregano and some paprika and some other spices, and then I'll make like a Mexican salad and add some guacamole, and there's a Mexican salad for the family. And then the next time we might just have the beef on its own with some veggies, and then also I do the same with pork. So I make pulled pork. I just cook it. Nom Paleo, she has the best recipes, and I might just do her Kahlua pork, which is just like shredded pork as well. Pulled pork, sorry, and it's got salt on the bottom of it and some bacon, and you just basically cook that, and it just has the best flavour. And with that, one night, I might do a Mexican kind of dish with it, or the next night, or another night down the track, I might kind of add some apple and some sage and some sweet potato and some ghee, and just kind of have that kind of like a good kind of pork fry up, really. And I do that with chicken as well. And usually when I do the chicken though, if I only have some chicken breast, what I might do with that is just cook it in some plain pasita sauce, like Aldi. They have a plain one that doesn't have anything else added into it, and just cook the chicken in the tomato sauce just so that it doesn't dry out too much, and then I'll add my herbs to that afterwards. And then I have like just one last little story about meal preparation that I like to tell, which is my chicken story, and I actually have that in an ebook. If anyone's interested, you can contact me about that. But basically, I get like 5 meals out of 1 roast chicken. So I just get a free-range organic roast chook, and I just cook it with a whole heap of veggies, and then I use the veggies to so we eat the dinner, obviously, and then we have leftovers, and then I use the veggies to make frittata for breakfast, and use the chicken again for a lunch. So I might use the leftover chicken for a salad or something like that. And then when I've got no chicken left on the chicken, I'll put it into the slow cooker, and I make a bone broth out of it. And so I'll cook that for about 6 hours, just with some water and maybe a couple extra veggies and herbs for flavour in there. But I like to keep that one fairly plain and just have a plain chicken broth for that, because I have 2 soups that I like to then make out of that broth. So the first soup I like to make is a chicken noodle soup. So I just usually use some of those sweet potato noodles, which now I don't think they're probably on the Whole30. So you could probably use like a spaghetti squash or some of your zucchini kind of noodles in that, and some veggies and some herbs, and then you've got your beautiful chicken noodle soup, and the kids really like that one as well. Well, the other one I like to do is like an Asian inspired soup. So I will get some lemongrass, some kaffir lime leaves, some garlic, ginger, lemongrass, all those really, you know, great herbs, that those Thai herbs, and simmer the broth and the herbs for about 20 minutes. And then I take all of the strain all the herbs out, and then I'm left with like a Thai flavored broth. And then I'll add back into it maybe some more chicken, some chicken thighs or chicken breast, whatever I have, some shiitake mushrooms or some kind of Asian style mushrooms or Asian greens, and then I'll add some MCT oil and some coconut milk, and I'll just simmer that again until the chicken is cooked. And then you can add your chili and things like that into it, and that just makes a beautiful, tasty Asian-inspired soup, which just, you know, is just delicious. And that way, if you're on a budget or anything like that, you've got 5 meals really out of the one roast chicken. And then lastly, I'm going to talk about eating out, some tips for eating out. So, you know, I just mentioned before that view the menu and plan ahead. So, you know, most menus are online these days. You can definitely take a look. If you haven't viewed the menu and you get to the restaurant, don't be afraid to ask. I remember going to a restaurant once. It was a Mexican style restaurant, and I couldn't find anything on the menu, and I was doing Whole30. And so I just talked to the waiter, and actually he got the owner, and then the owner and I had a chat for ages about, you know, what options I could do so that I would still have a fairly substantial meal and not have to eat what they had. And because a lot of their meals were already pre-made, they couldn't help me too much. But what we did in the end was I just ended up ordering a fajita and just not having the actual tortillas and not having the cheese side that it came with. And I ended up with a really lovely meat, veggies, and guacamole with it. So, you know, if you ask, and, you know, most restaurants, you know, understand allergies and food intolerances these days, so you can always say, I have an intolerance or, you know, an issue with the food. And, you know, most of the time I find they're really helpful and friendly, and if they're not, then I don't really want to eat there anyway. Some other things you can do is like order an entree, because sometimes the entrees might just have like a lovely bed of scallops or something like that, and then you can ask for the side salad or side vegetables to go with that, and that can make up your meal for you. Like if you're at cafes, always look for an all-day breakfast and just sub the toast. You know, sub it for some extra mushrooms or something like that. One thing we always say is, you know, eat before you go out. I always have a question mark there, because, you know, part of the joy of going out with your friends is, you know, not only seeing your friends and stuff, but it's also the joy of eating the food and sharing the food. So, you know, really just make that decision yourself whether you want to eat before you go out. And another thing to do is, you know, avoid all the sweet drinks and just order some mineral water, or bubble water as we call it in our house. And we have a soda stream. We just threw away all the syrup that comes with that, and we just make the bubble water, and, you know, it's just something different in your mouth. You get that bubbly kind of texture, and it just really is a bit more special than just the plain water. So that's a good trick to try as well, and Whole9 suggests that too. I picked up that tip off them. And, you know, sometimes the best places to eat out are pubs, and you can these days normally always find one kind of grass-fed steak. You know, it's starting to become a bit better that you can order 1 or 2 grass-fed steaks off the menu. Not all of them are always grained, even though grain-fed. even though they always like to proudly say that's the MSA standard grain-fed, but you can find a lot of places these days with grass-fed on the menu. So yeah, they're my tips. I hope you got something out of those. And I'm just going to pass now to Kat, and she's going to talk about her tips for surviving the Whole30. Thanks, Kat.
Hey Leah, thank you. Some of my tips are going to cover something similar to Emmely and Leah. However, that should probably give you confidence that they are actually going to help you throughout your Whole30 as well. But first of all, I want to say congrats. Congrats on making the decision to try Paleo, to try Whole30, and just welcome to the adventure. Because it really is an adventure. It's all about discovering how your body works, because I've found that one size doesn't fit all, but Whole30 is pretty good. For 30 days, it lets us all hit reboot, reset, and then we can pick up and see what works specifically for ourselves. So as I said before, I have done one Whole30, but it became a 100, a whole 100. And that's mainly because I started to feel so much better. Now, I think all of us, if we were honest, would probably admit that we start Whole30 with a little bit in the back of our mind that it's to lose weight. But for me, there was also the losing weight, but it was predominantly for my health because I suffer from a lot of autoimmune conditions. So my doctors had told me that I had no other options left, no other medication that could help. I was maxed out, and I was going to have to rely on painkillers from here on in. So at 32, that's not something you want to hear, and I actually refused to accept it. I went to one of my specialists, an immunologist, and mentioned about paleo, and he was actually really encouraging. I had been flirting, as I would say, with the paleo diet probably for about a year prior to trying the Whole30, and it was for the wrong reasons. I was doing it solely to lose weight. But now with my primary focus being on health, I was able to get through those initial first few days and weeks of Whole30 because I had a bigger picture in mind. So I just, like Emmely has said, set some goals for yourself. Yes, weight loss is a good one, but look for other things, maybe to sleep better at night, have clearer thinking processes, just feeling more energetic all of the time. I went from needing 2-hour naps every single day to no naps. I would have slept 12 hours a night, and then I suddenly was surviving on 7 to 8 hours a night. I'd become normal, I guess, and that was exciting. And one thing I will say, in Whole30, one of the rules is don't weigh yourself, except for day 1 and after day 30. And I would recommend that. Do not weigh yourself. Don't cheat in between. Let it be a surprise at the end. And many of the other things that are happening aren't measurable, like the sleep, the energy, the clearer thought process. And I say that, you're probably thinking, oh, well, Catherine had health issues. She had a lot more to gain. What about me? I don't have, say, arthritis or the Crohn's like Catherine. Well, my husband, he would have considered himself perfectly fit, perfectly well, and he decided to do Whole30 just to support me, because let's face it, it's easier if everybody in the house is eating Whole30. Well, in the first 30 days, he lost 8.4 kilos. He wouldn't have considered himself overweight, but he lost fat, he became lean, had increased muscle mass. He was sleeping much better. He wasn't relying on coffee throughout the day. He did keep drinking his coffee in Whole30, but he had to learn to drink it black, no milk. And now that's the only way he'll drink it. His skin was clearer, he was studying better, and just everything felt easier for him. So I would encourage you to have a look at those little things within your everyday life as well. Maybe suddenly it's easier to take the stairs than it had been a week ago. So in my Whole30, within the first 30 days, I dropped 8 kilos. My blood inflammatory markers, though, more importantly, actually halved. So those are the markers within your blood that measure the inflammation from arthritis or any other infection. So by removing the inflammatory foods, you'll actually be doing your own body lots of favours. If you suffer from headaches, I think you'll probably find they disappear. Obviously, you'll have the detoxy period at the beginning, and it might feel a bit worse. I was able to reduce my medications by half, so that's something else that you can have a look at and consider, obviously in conjunction with your own medical practitioner. As I've told you about the sleep, I had decreased pain as well. I was able to suddenly walk down the stairs normally. Before, I was having to walk like a child and cling on to the banister. And I was suddenly able to go back and exercise. However, in the Whole30, I only went to the gym, I think, 3 times. You'd be proud of me, Emmely. Only the 3. Didn't want to stress myself out too much, you know. Yeah. Yeah, so it was just, and I was able to develop a good relationship with food. Now, I'm an emotional eater, and I'm probably the first to admit it. However, I, through the process of Whole30, was able to discover that if I was having a bad day, eating a bar of chocolate was only going to make it better for about the 30 seconds it took me to eat the bar of chocolate. The bad day was still going to be there whenever I finished it. So I developed other strategies, you know, having a bath, being able to read a book, burning some lavender, just actually having a conversation with my husband instead of bottling it up. There was just all these other options suddenly became available whenever I previously was living a life that I thought was too busy. So some of my tips, as I say, are very similar, probably actually completely the same as Emmely and Leah, but mostly be organized. Now, when I did my first Whole30, I was a shift worker. I was working early shifts, late shifts, finishing at 11 o'clock at night, and night shifts that would go from 11 p.m. until 7 a.m. Being organized was extremely important to me. I had to have all the food that I would need with me for each shift. Unfortunately, in a hospital, luckily at the Royal, there's a banana vending machine, but it also sells avocados, but lots of workplaces aren't just as lucky. So with that organisation, it was the meal planning, using like the KKK meal planner that Leah talked about, and writing shopping lists. And if you're like me, remembering to take the shopping list to the grocery store, because I do forget it. So putting it on your phone is actually a really good way to do it, or take a picture of the list that you've written at home. I'll also plot out my journey around North Brisbane, the butchers that I'm going to go to, the market that I'm going to go to, and just, you know, go from there. Then I'll come home and we'll meal prep. I'm lucky I married a chef. You don't need to. If I can manage to do it and do all that food prep, then any of you can, because honestly, before this, I thought I could burn water. And don't be afraid to experiment. You know, there's many a thing that I didn't think I would try, but as my taste changed with Whole30, I suddenly discovered I actually quite like tomatoes when previously I would have pulled them out of everything. It was a hang-up left over from childhood, and I'm sure we probably all are guilty of a few of them. So yeah, definitely, you know, keep trying new things. Your taste will definitely change. Interesting, halfway through my first Whole30, I suddenly discovered that my toothpaste was incredibly sweet. If you told me I would have felt that prior to starting Whole30, I would have laughed. Toothpaste doesn't have sugar, but by the end of it, it tasted completely, like, just very, very sweet to me. So also, you know, the meals and eating out, as I say, with being married to a chef, we don't like to eat at home terribly much. If I don't feel like cooking and he's cooked all day, we'll eat out. So there are, you know, we're pretty lucky. There are a few paleo cafes here in Brisbane and Primal Pantry, which is awesome. And if you just mention Whole30 to them, they know what you're talking about. They can steer you in the right direction, which is fabulous. Although, you know, there are all those other cafes, restaurants that all your friends will want to go to. The only place I've really struggled, obviously, are some of the Asian restaurants. They use a lot of soy sauce, MSG, and the rice. So I'm fortunate I've talked enough about Whole30 with my friends and family, and they can see the benefits within myself and how excited I am to be feeling better, and they're excited for me. That they will always make sure that it's a restaurant that will have at least one dish that I will be able to order or tweak. So in my first Whole30, I survived my birthday. And I'm a, you have to have cake on your birthday type girl. Obviously, you can't have that in Whole30. So my husband made a big celebration of putting some candles in actually my main meal and still singing happy birthday. So I didn't feel like I'd missed out. I also had my wedding anniversary. And we just made sure that it was a meal that we both liked, and just tweaked it to be Whole30 compliant. So in our house, if you follow my Instagram feed, you'll learn that pork belly is pretty much one of our favorites, and we do like to have it once a week. So, you can do things like that, get the perfect crackling, and just really enjoy it. Obviously, Whole30 does have its difficulties. It's not easy, let's say, at the beginning. There are the low carb, the detoxing flu type symptoms. I went into it expecting to have a headache, expecting to have a skin outbreak, and I did. I reckon my headache probably lasted for close to 5 days. But I was somebody who would probably have binged on everything prior. I was going from your standard Australian diet, and drinking up to 2 litres of Coke Zero a day to suddenly being Whole30. So in the long run, my body thanks me for it. At the time, not so much. But what I really clung to in those moments was that by having those symptoms, that the Whole30 was working. My body was clearing itself of all those nasties, and these were just symptoms of them leaving, and then also a sign of disease leaving. And you do start to feel pretty good pretty quickly after that. And they have an expression, tiger blood, and when the tiger blood hits, it's pretty good. So that's basically whenever your body has got rid of all the nasties, and you feel like you can take on the world. And I didn't think I would get that, being somebody who had the arthritis and had so many health issues to begin with. But I suddenly found myself in the gym on the treadmill with an incline of 10. I felt I could take on the world. It was hello tiger blood, and that feeling stuck around for weeks, which is why I kept going for the 100 days. Now, I did come off it mainly because there were a couple of paleo treats I would like. Christmas was coming. And as December progressed with being off Whole30, I have become quite sluggish. I just haven't felt quite as good. So that's why I'm really excited to be back on it and encouraging all of you as well. So I'll give you some examples of some of the meals that I would have on Whole30. I like to try and keep it fairly simple and quick to make, because I'm not somebody who wants to hang out in the kitchen all day. And my husband certainly doesn't when he comes home from a 9-hour day in work. So for instance, like today was a work day, so we're all up early with kids to feed, things like that. It's easy to prepare the food the night before. So I simply boiled 3 eggs last night, and peeled them, popped them in the fridge, and used them leftover salad, just to have some greens and something a bit different with the eggs. Dressed that with olive oil this morning, and that kept me going probably from about 6 a.m. until midday, actually. If, however, I had needed something in between, I usually try to drink a bit of water. It can be that you're dehydrated, and especially in this weather in Brisbane at the moment, we're all probably prone to getting a little bit dehydrated, and sometimes that is what hunger is, to go for the water. And obviously the bubble water, like Leah says, is awesome. Those bubbles will help sort of curb the hunger as well. And the soda stream, absolutely love my soda stream, definitely recommend it. For meal 2, I generally have made an extra portion of dinner the night before, and we will have that for lunch the next day. So today for myself, it was leftover pork belly and some nectarine salad with olive oil dressing. And then for meal 3, just another source of protein, either roast veggies, stir-fry vegetables, and you can get something called coconut aminos in most health food stores, and you can use that in place of soy sauce or tamari, and that with a bit of chili, a bit of garlic, maybe a bit of paprika in the wok, and you've got perfect Asian flavored stir-fried vegetables. Or any type of salad, just mix it up. I occasionally put a little bit of fruit through the salad, so tonight's it was an orange and lime through it, spinach, kale, just all that sort of lovely things. Also, going back to the drinks, as I say, I was somebody who drank up to probably 2 litres, and if I'm honest, some days a bit more, of Coke Zero a day. So to go from that to drinking plain, boring water, I did not like it. Obviously, you can't have things like orange juice, they're a bit processed, full of sugar. So what I've actually done, I stocked it up my last Whole30, but what I've done before this one is I actually visited a store called T2. And I think the shop assistant regretted asking if I needed help, because I got him to search the store for teas that could be had cold that had no sugar. And it'll actually surprise you, the number in T2, just be careful, that do actually have sugar added. So I got a couple. One's berry frutia and pumping pomegranate, and they're just nice and berry. You make them up, pop them in a jug, and they're there in the fridge, just to take that edge off when you just don't want water again. But they're full of goodies, the good stuff, no nasties. My other tip in that store is just be careful. Some of them will also have yogurt chips in them. If it says anything like strawberries and cream, yes, they have yogurt chips in their tea. So just being mindful of that. And yeah, just surround yourself with people like Leah, Emmely, myself. We're on many forms of social media. One of us is always about, or anybody in the Brisbane Paleo group. Everybody's very knowledgeable. If you're not from Brisbane, because I know there's a few of my followers are actually from overseas and interstate, you know, there'll be groups in your hometown as well. Have a look online for markets that are recommended, other supermarkets, and as I say, just treat it as one big adventure with an exciting end, which is, you know, you learning more about your body, how it works, and getting the best out of it. So it's all about finding the fuel that you need, and it's a fantastic journey. And don't get on those scales until the end. It'll be worth it. All right, back to you, Leah.
Thank you so much. That was, yeah, so many interesting and useful bits of information there. So thank you for sharing your story with us. One thing I was going to suggest there was too that, you know, Whole9, they recommend taking a photo before and a photo at the end. So maybe if you haven't taken a photo of yourself, do that, because some people, you know, while, you know, Kat, you obviously had fantastic success, some people might have different and more subtle success, you know. So it's just about, you know, take that picture and that might, you know, tell a different story to how you might have been perceiving yourself anyway.
Absolutely, definitely, and try to keep the same clothes as well. I actually did the before and afters, and looking back now, 6 months after it all, I'm like, whoa, you know, at the time I wouldn't have thought it was that much, but in 6 months' time you're going to be looking back and thinking, whoa, go me, you know, this is awesome. So yeah, and keep hold of those posts, because it's interesting looking back and you're like, oh, okay. Yeah. No,
that's great. Thank you. And thanks for sharing those meal ideas with us. If you haven't had dinner yet, is anyone hungry? So I've got a question from Beth, and I'm going to direct this one at Emmely. Beth says she has to combat some skepticism with family and friends in trying to do this. The comment is, but you need nutrients in these other foods. Is there a short and sharp reason that any of us have found that help others understand why you are doing the Whole30?
Thanks, Leah. So Beth, I'm assuming that you're talking about when people mention nutrients in these other foods, you're talking about just like paleo foods and stuff in general. So I find the Whole9 website has got a bunch of manifestos. So they're quite short articles, and they go through each, you know, grain, like why, like grains, dairy, fats, and those bits and pieces. So you might be able to sort of grab a few key points out of that. I think the other thing is, you know, I just sort of tell people it's only for 30 days. I'm going to learn about my body. I've got nothing to lose, everything to gain. You're going to figure out how your body reacts to different foods, and all the Whole30 is doing is taking the most common inflammatory foods out there and just eliminating them for a short period of time, so that when you introduce them again, that you can figure out if you can tolerate these or not. And as we know, inflammation is like the biggest underlying reasons for most of the, you know, autoimmune and lifestyle diseases out there. So it's such a great place to start. It doesn't cost anything except your time and, you know, sort of preparing this. Like, you're going to eat 3 times a day anyway, so why not take this as an opportunity to, you know, try some different food and see what happens.
Sorry, that's great. Thanks, Em. Sorry, I couldn't find my mute button quick enough. Is anyone got any more questions? Feel free to start putting them up now. We've got, you know, a few minutes we can stay around for and answer some more questions. One thing I was going to put up was there is an official Can I Have Whole30 guide. So I'll just pop that link up for everybody. I find that one's really useful. I think, though, most of the time with the guide, if you're thinking, can I have that? The answer is usually no. We had a question already kind of in the group where can you have kombucha? And kombucha is actually a yes, but you just got to watch those added sugars, especially in some of the store-bought ones. They might add sugar in the second ferment. So just be careful with that. If you're just having kombucha that you've brewed yourself and you know what's in the second ferment, it might be just ginger or you know, or whatever. You just put just some fruit in it, then that's usually okay. But if they're adding, you know, anything to it after, which, you know, I don't know why they do, but they do, then yeah, just be careful with those. So Kat, have you got another tip that you might have thought of while we're just waiting for some more questions to come through?
Yeah, so just going back to, you know, the good old thing whenever you tell people, oh, I'm doing Whole30, and they say, what's that? And you say, well, I'm not eating this, 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 and this, and they freak out because that's the standard response for everybody. But, you know, because they're used to the normal food pyramid, and I imagine that's what's happening with people who are new to this in particular. One thing I remind them, people think if you're not having grains in your diet, that you're not going to have enough fiber and you're going to be really constipated. Just remind them that you're actually eating probably more vegetables than you ever have, and a little bit of fruit. So you're not going to get constipated. And from terms of dairy, people love to flip out that you're not having dairy. They forget that a lot of people are actually lactose intolerant anyway and aren't eating it. But they all worry that we won't get enough calcium, that we're all going to end up with osteoporosis and going around with our arms in plaster practically. However, calcium is actually in a lot of green leafy vegetables. And I myself actually was diagnosed with steroid-induced osteoporosis, but since going paleo, I have managed to reverse that to osteopenia, which is almost back to normal bone strength, and that's with 0 dairy. So be confident in it. There's many of us have done this already, and it does work. And as I say, as Emmely has said, it's only for 30 days. You might be one of the lucky few, and I'm very jealous if you can, that can have cheese at the end of the 30 days. But it's a matter of slowly reintroducing that and seeing how your body responds, because not every body is the same, and a lot of it comes down to our ancestry as well. I'm from Ireland, so my body tolerates potatoes, but some of my friends, their body just does not, although they are fortunate and can tolerate quinoa, and I can't. So, you know, it's just finding what works for you. Say it's an adventure and not one size fits all.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Erin just asked what the whole 9 was. So yeah, whole 9. Dallas and Melissa Hartwig, they wrote it starts with food. They are the people that devised the Whole30, and the whole 9 actually are whole 9 factors. So a lot about what Emmely was talking about in the beginning. So the whole 9 factors are nutrition. So, you know, it starts with food, sleep, healthy movement, fun and play, stress management, socialization, natural environment, personal growth, and temperance. So, you know, we often say that, you know, if the food's working well for you, but you're still not seeing the results that you're expecting or what you're looking for, then it could be any one of those other factors that might be playing with you, and you might need to look at those. So, yeah, there's just so much resources on the whole 30 and whole 9 pages that you can just look through, and It Starts With Food is my reference guide. I just carry that with me at all of our events, anywhere we go, so it's my Bible. Okay, so it doesn't look like we have any more questions coming through yet, so I might just start wrapping up. If anyone has any more questions, then Kat obviously has the event that she's created that anybody is welcome to join, which most of you probably already have anyway. But you can definitely post in there. She's been posting her food pictures in there for everybody to see, and any tips and stuff like that. So that's really great resource. Obviously, the Brisbane Paleo group is a great resource. If you're from interstate or overseas and you want to join the group, then you are welcome to. You know, there might be some location-specific stuff in there, but usually the information is, you know, general information about paleo, so you're more than welcome to join that. I just put some links up before. Em and I have some events coming up that so if you sign up to meet up, you just get an email when the events are created. So we're kind of doing like a I forget the name of it, Em. It's your your healthy resolution event. Yeah. We don't have any firm dates for those yet, but we do know that we should be going to Paleo Cafe North Lakes. So if anyone on the north side you're looking for an event, we'll have some cooking demonstrations in there, some more information. We also have Ivy coming up from Paleo in Melbourne. Those events are actually in Meetup that you can take a look at. She's going to be doing an event with me called the Healthy Swap. So it'll be talking a lot about swapping out your old foods with better foods. And she's just, last time she came up exactly a year ago, and everybody was just amazed by how useful her information was. So she's definitely a person to see when she's up. And we're doing events on the Gold Coast with that as well. And sorry, Em, do you want to say anything before we go?
Yeah, sure. So I'll just let you sort of know what I do. So basically, I'm a health and nutrition coach. So I provide individual and group coaching, and particularly love helping like young families and people that come from the corporate sort of stressful world, because that's sort of where I came from. And I basically try and identify imbalances across all areas of their life. So, you know, like a lot of the lifestyle factors that I spoke about. So you're talking about nutrition and cooking, but also your exercise, environment, relationships, and try and identify simple steps to incorporate, you know, back these things into your life, so you can create new and sustainable habits. I've also just started distributing Young Living essential oils, so that's sort of going in line with my quest to do toxin-free living, and you know, that's been fantastic. So if you want any more information, just feel free to contact me. And if you just want to sign up to my newsletter, I send that out every like 2 to 4 weeks. That's just at emmely.rackemann.com. I think Leah already put a link in, I could put it in again, but just I sort of send out healthy tips and recipes, and any upcoming events that we're doing as well. So yeah, thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you, Em. And Kat, have you got anything you want to sum up with there?
Yeah, just thanks everybody for, you know, taking an hour out of your evening and coming along to spend it with us. It's been fun. If you've got any questions after this, because let's face it, if you're like me, the questions will come to you just before you go to sleep, feel free to write them down and you know, contact one of us on Facebook. There's the Brisbane Paleo group, the event page for the whole 30 of this month, which will be available. And there's also my on Facebook page, Catherine Keast Autoimmune Survivor. And if I can't answer it, I will try and find somebody who can answer and get back to you. I've also got Instagram, cat_Keast, and I'm sharing all of my meals throughout the day. Some are a little bit more inspiring than others, but 90% of them I've made, so you don't have to worry that you need to be a chef or anything like that. But yeah, no, just thank you and good luck. Enjoy the journey.
Thank you. Thanks so much, guys, for participating and speaking with us, and thanks everyone online. I really hope you guys got something out of it. And in the next couple of weeks, keep an eye out. We're going to have Ivy from Paleo in Melbourne, and she's going to be doing a webinar with us as well. So everybody's welcome to join that one, and it's free. So thanks everybody, and we'll say good night.
Thanks, Leah.
All right, good night everyone. Thanks for joining us.